is much worse. But as I was putting the final touches on the house, a pack of wolves spotted me. The wolves are circling my house with me stuck inside. I waited until they got distracted and booked it out the front door, quickly picking up sticks and stones off the ground and crafting 3 spears. And when the wolves spotted me again, I ran across the ice, pillaring up with the logs I had, so I was barely out of reach. I could still hit the wolves with my spears, but the wolves are smart. As they were getting low on health, they would run away from me, saving their own lives. But I took this chance to go on the offensive and take out this wolf stuck in the water. But the other wolves in the pack took advantage of that and came after me again, forcing me to pillar back up to safety. Now, the wolves were mostly keeping their distance, but I couldn't just let them get away. I really needed the food they drop, and if they get away, they would eventually come back. And if they caught me off guard, I could easily lose that fight. I was able to take out most of the wolves, but still 3 of them did get away, and it's not safe for me to go looking for them in the forest. So I made my way back home, and I had to stay cautious just in case they came back. But at least that was some food. So I took this time to finish building the house, since summer is just around the corner, and I'm gonna need protection from the harsh weather. All right, there is the finished house. I think it actually turned out pretty good. Once these bricks dry, I'm gonna put some stairs right here to get up. But otherwise, we have a good amount of space in here. We have all of our storage, we have some tools on the wall. And over here, we have all of our logs and our log piles and our chopping block. Overall, we have a much better and safer setup now. So I switched my focus over to getting a backpack so I can hold more than 9 slots of items. And we've gotten plenty of animal hide already, which I can turn into leather to craft one, but I'm going to need beeswax to do that. So I set up a beehive now, since it's gonna take quite a while for a bee to start living in this hive. So while we're waiting for that, I decided to grab my prospector's pickaxe and head out for our first mining adventure. When you right click the ground with this pickaxe, it'll tell you if there are any ores nearby, which might sound overpowered, but ores are so rare in this that it's basically a requirement to use this pickaxe.
If you're looking for a chill mobile game, I think I found the best one. Idle Planet Miner. Check this out. You run a space mining company.
After searching for a long time, I finally found a vein of tetrahedrite ore, which sounds complicated, but it melts down into just regular copper. I guess it's just more realistic to have a fancy name, but I had to be careful because realistic mining can be dangerous. Mining too much without a support beam can cause the cave to collapse, and if a rock lands on my head, it's over. Oh, that was close. That could have been on me. Oh, the support beams even broke. Maybe that's a good sign to head back. As I was walking back to the base, I noticed that some of the snow was finally melting. As now we're in late spring, things are finally starting to warm up. But being up here high in the mountains means it's always going to be colder than normal, which would be good for when summer comes around so we don't overheat. But when winter comes, surviving in the mountains might literally be impossible. I found some wild crops in the forest, which should hold me over on food for a little bit, but these crops still wouldn't be grown for months. And I still have no source of fresh water. So before summer starts in a few days, we need clean water and we need to melt our ores into ingots. And doing that is actually quite a process. To start, we need a hammer to crush the ores into chunks. And then using a sluice, whatever that is, we can wash those chunks into smaller chunks. Then we need to craft a quern and a handstone to manually grind down those chunks into dirty dust, which I need to wash in the sluice again to get powder that we can melt into actual ingots. It's a big process. But while the rest of that is being washed, we need purified water now. And we finally have everything to do that. Making a pile of logs covered by dirt and lighting them on fire will eventually burn them into charcoal. And grinding that charcoal into powder, putting that in a clay pot full of water over a campfire will cause the water to start to boil. And as soon as that's done boiling in there, we'll have purified water that is finally safe to drink. And once it was ready, I stored the purified water in a wooden barrel and even made a bit extra. So we have a good stockpile of water to drink that'll hopefully last us a couple months because we are officially in summer now. So not only is the temperature rising, but I'm gonna have to deal with rainstorms and tornadoes and hope I can stay alive to complete my goal of surviving an entire year. But I finally finished working with all the copper ore and getting it ready to be smelted, which would be too slow to do with the vessels and fire like we had to do earlier. So instead, now that we have more materials, I can build a charcoal pit, which essentially is the furnace of realistic Minecraft, letting me use charcoal to melt all of this stuff into liquid copper to fill the molds and finally get us our first ingots. It's about time. And after all that work, we got 17 ingots. That's it. As happy as I was to finally have a few copper ingots, the hard thing about this challenge is that you are never allowed time to take a break because I was down to my final pieces of food. I only had enough left to last me a few days max, and my crops still aren't grown. I had no choice but to head out into the wilderness to try to find some food, which I knew wasn't going to be easy for how dangerous it is to be out here. Even in the summer, the snow hadn't fully melted all the way up here in the mountains, which made walking around even slower. And with only one jug of clean water and a few cabbages to live on, the slower I moved, the less of a chance I'd have to survive. I found a wild goose that I thought could be some good food, but it's so small, it would only be good for a single meal at most. And there was just no chance I can hunt any of the bigger animals right now. But eventually, I came across another river, which was full of salmon. So I gathered as many of those as I could while trying to swim against the river's current. Oh my gosh, fighting the river current is so hard. I couldn't catch up to more fish, so I got back to land and followed the river until I found this huge lake. Wow, what a pretty place this would have been to set up base. There was more salmon in the lake, but also a piranha came right at me. So I threw my spear at it and it bounced off the ground and hit me right in the eye. Did I just hit myself in the head? After a second, it healed and I threw my spear at another piranha and it disappeared. I don't know where my javelin just went. I made a new spear and got a few more fish before chopping trees and deciding to set up camp here and cook our food and spend the night collecting some fish. Oh, there's my other spear. I tried to get the meat from the goose I got earlier, but all I got out of it was feathers, which was sick and twisted to say the least. But as soon as the sun started to rise, I set back out into the wilderness to hopefully find more food. And I did find some wild beetroots, but now my inventory was completely full, so I had no choice but to head back home with what I'd found. But there were a couple things I did decide to leave behind so that I could bring back this wild garlic I found on the walk home. Oh, home. Once I got there, I stored the food I collected, which luckily wouldn't be expiring anytime soon, so at least I'm set for food for a little while, but it will eventually run out just from me eating it. So I made sure to plant the seeds to try to be prepared for the future, because once winter comes, all the crops will die, so we need to grow as much food as possible before that, so we can actually try to survive the winter. But there are a few other survival necessities that I need to take care of as well. By heating back up the copper ingots to be hot enough, I can use my hammer and weld them together into double ingots. 7 of these craft the copper anvil, which will let me make a ton more stuff out of copper. If only I had more than 3 ingots left. We'll have to go mining again later, but for now, the silkworms from earlier have been infesting leaves, and I've collected a good amount of string. So using this loom, we can weave it into silk cloth. And with 3 of these, I can craft a bed. Now for the first time, we can actually sleep. Oh, that feels so nice. And that morning, I wanted to use some of the little remaining copper I had to make myself a copper axe. And now is probably a good time to explain how forging works. First, you have to heat up the metal to make it hot enough to weld. You put it in the anvil and select what you want to make. And you have to hammer the ingot by pressing these 8 buttons, ending in a specific order to move this little arrow to line up with this arrow, which is much harder than it seems because it needs to be exact. Even this wasn't good enough. It's pretty complicated, but you can keep trying as long as you want. But the longer it takes you, the worse the item will turn out. Poorly forged. Okay, you don't have to be rude. Forging metals is hard, okay? But now I have a better axe than stone, which is a massive upgrade because stone axes are very slow. Timber. Maybe cut that out. What's that cringe? I used these logs to create more charcoal before going to bed and then chopping the remaining logs into support beams so I could go on another mining trip for more materials. I was hoping to find ores to make bronze or iron or anything better than copper really, but after searching multiple caves and using my prospector's pick, I was finding literally nothing. Dude, there's no minerals anywhere. I did find a few small rabbits that I could bring home for food, but not much for ores. I ended up back at the cave where we got copper before, which did have a couple remaining ore, so I went further into the cave, but instead of ores, I just found things that wanted to hurt me. So, disappointed, I decided to head back up to the surface, and what is that? Is that a tornado? There's no way. There's no way. Wait, that's in the direction of my house. No. Oh gosh, and thunder? Please tell me this isn't on my house. Please. Wait, it's pulling me in. My hands are off the keyboard. No, 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 no. Get away, get away, get away, get away. How do I get home? My house is that way. It's getting bigger. No, I hope the house is okay. We have to get back. We have to run this way. I made some distance, and now the tornado was a decent ways away, and I was safe. But the only question was, did the tornado run over my house? There's the base. I think it looks okay. There it is. I don't think I came through this area. I think we're okay. The base looks safe. Okay, good, 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 good. That could have been bad. I got lucky this time, but as we enter the fall season, this weather is only going to get worse. And even though the base survived the tornado this time, it was looking like I may have a zombie problem too. The zombies are much scarier in realistic Minecraft because if you get bit by one, you become infected. And unless I get something like a golden apple or a golden carrot to cure myself, it's over. Just one bite, the infection takes over, and I'm dead. And I don't have any gold to make a cure anyway, so I had to be extra careful. And with all these survival conditions getting much more dangerous, I decided to really start preparing. With the single copper ingot I had left, I forged a copper javelin to have as a weapon. And I did find traces of more copper when I was running home from the tornado, so I went back there to mine it, and there was a ton here. I had to fight a rhino to escape the cave, but other than that, it went pretty well. And I spent that night processing all the ores I got. I want to get a good pickaxe out of this, but I did not succeed at that. Yes, poorly forged. Great. Of course it was. I'm really not a good blacksmith, but while the rest of the copper was getting processed, I wanted to address my inventory problem by finally crafting a backpack, which requires leather. And to start turning rawhide into leather, I have to put flux in a barrel of water to make lime water. And I have to seal this large hide in there for 8 minutes. And I will say, one of the best things about this mod, you can see it's turning night. This has about 7 minutes left, but if we sleep, time actually passes and it's done soaking. So nice. Normal Minecraft should have that feature. But that's just step 1 of making leather. I also need to scrape the hide, soak that in salt water for 8 minutes, which I avoided a tornado to get, put logs in a barrel of water to get tannin, soak the hide in there for 8 minutes, finally use our bees to get beeswax, craft treated lumber, grind up bones and soak them in lime water for 8 minutes to get glue, use those to craft a mixing bowl and a spoon, cut up 3 tree seeds and boil it for seed oil water, coat the hide in that in the mixing